Hello, my name is Sherry Powell Summerhour. I'm a first grade teacher for DeKalb County Schools. My current teaching assignment is at a Title I school that has a heavy population of English language learners. I often struggle with the notion that I may not be providing the appropriate instructional tools for these students to succeed academically. That is why I chose to do a qualitative case study on ELLs, which focuses on test preparation and accommodations on the elementary level within the general classroom setting. I wanted to give further insight on how to get ELLs on a leveled playing field. The No Child Left Behind Act that was created in 2002 supports standards-based education. And this reform is based on the premise of setting high standards and establishing measurable goals that can improve individual outcomes in education. The Act requires states to develop assessments in basic skills, and in order for these schools to receive federal funding, states must give these assessments to all students at select grade levels, and ELLs are included within this. So as to meet No Child Left Behind orders concerning ELLs, most states have moved towards making and expediting a suitable evaluation framework for such learners. If you look at the average classroom in the United States, you will see a huge transformation. The U.S. Department of Education gauges that roughly 4.5 million English language learners are enlisted in public schools across the nation. This gives some teachers certain challenges within the classroom. So some essential questions that teachers must ask themselves are: how can they help these students meet challenging education standards, the challenging curriculum, and assessments that are now being developed within the general education system? And how can the general public education system be individualized to better serve these diverse learners? So let me give you some historical background. Prior to IDEA and No Child Left Behind, all students were not always included in the assessment process. The focus on accommodation has shifted from an anything goes approach for inclusion to ensuring that there are valid measurements for these students to achieve. Federal regulations stipulate states have policies on appropriate accommodations for such students as to ensure valid measurement. So let me give you a definition of what an ELL is. ELL stands for English Language Learners, and those are students who qualify for language assistance services. Some ELLs have disabilities, and some of these students who are exited language assistance services in the last 2 years, which are ELL monitors. What is an accommodation? Accommodations allow access. They are practices and procedures in the areas of presentation, response, setting, and scheduling that provide equitable instructional and assessment access for students with disabilities and English language learners. Accommodation reduce or eliminate the effects of students' limited English proficiency. You must know that accommodations do not provide an unfair advantage, because some people believe that they do. And the accommodations do not reduce or change learning expectations. They're just there to put these students on an even playing field. Test administration accommodation for such students. Accommodations provide access for demonstration of achievement. They allow participation, and they do not guarantee proficiency. Therefore, they should not be selected solely as a means to help ensure proficiency. Accommodations must be required by the student in order to participate in the assessment, and the test administration accommodations must be provided during routine instruction and assessment in the classroom, both before and after the state tests are administered. So this is specifically through the Georgia Department of Education. In Georgia, accommodations may not alter explain, simplify, paraphrase, or eliminate any test item, reading passage, writing prompts, or choice option, because this is considered cheating on a test. And we all know that Georgia has had a big stint in cheating scandals, especially in Atlanta. We want to provide verbal or other clues or suggestions that hint or give away the correct response to students. So we definitely want to steer away from these because we don't want to be involved in any more scandals. So some things to consider when it comes to accommodations for ELLs are: for English language learners, we should consider that the student's level of English proficiency, the student's level of literacy in English, the student's level of native language proficiency, and the student's level of literacy in native language. So, we're almost at the finish line, so let's listen up. Some points to remember. Only state-approved accommodations may be considered for these students. Federal regulations specify that students participating with unapproved accommodations may not be considered participants for AYP purposes, and the use of accommodations must be accurately coded. Now, I kept this presentation very brief and concise, but please remember everything that was presented regarding test preparation and accommodations for ELLs. If we all stay on one accord and we adhere to these, our students are bound to succeed. So we've made it to the finish line. We're at the end, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for listening.